You know, I think oftentimes in government and in Washington in particular, we become very process-oriented and lose the forest for the trees. So I'm just going to suggest a question, not to be answered here, but suggest a question for all of us to think about. Senator Sessions went through the rash of shutdowns very recently. Kewanee in Wisconsin, Vermont Yankee, Crystal River Unit 3 in Florida, Songs 2 and 3 in California. Duke Energy announced it wouldn't move forward with Levy County, Florida. TVA announced that it would scale back work at Bellefonte. Now, if any of us as individuals think most or all of those sites were unsafe or not safe enough, well, that's a good result. But if we think, as I do, that most, probably all of those sites were safe enough, that is a fundamental failure on the part of all of us, NRC, Congress, the whole establishment. So I just want to try to have us focus on the forest and not lose sight of it. Let me ask some specific questions about Yucca Mountain. First of all, Madam Chair, at your confirmation hearing, you stated very clearly, quote, "To be effective, a regulatory body must be independent from economic, policy, and political interests," close quote. However, in the majority opinion on Yucca Mountain, Judge Kavanaugh stated that, quote, "The Commission's political prognostication may or may not ultimately prove to be correct. Regardless, an agency may not rely on political guesswork about future congressional appropriations as a basis for violating existing legal mandates," close quote. And he didn't consider it a close call. Why did it take you a court decision to move forward with that legal mandate? Why was not that political prognostication about and political guesswork about congressional appropriations not being independent from political interests and considerations?
Thanks for the question, Senator. I was not on the commission when those decisions were made, so I will not try to second guess the decisions that were made in the past. What I can assure you is that we are fully complying with the court's decision, and we are moving forward, continuing with the proceedings, and we are moving forward promptly on this.
Okay, well, let's move to that. The Commission has repeatedly acknowledged in its order, including this week, that it does not have adequate resources to fully complete the Yucca review and issue a decision. Is that correct?
To fully complete the licensing decision?
Yes, to fully complete
we do not have adequate
the review
resources
and issue a decision pursuant to the review.
That is correct.
Okay, so what action are you taking to solve that problem? For instance, have you proposed a supplemental budget to OMB?
No, we have not.
Have you taken any other action to solve that problem?
No, we are complying with the court's decision. They told us to use the existing funds that we had, and we are going forward using those funds.
Let me ask you about existing resources. As was pointed out by other members a few minutes ago, NRC staff has increased about 34%, at least since 2000. Meanwhile, the expected increase in workload has never materialized, quite the opposite. So, huge increase in staff, no increase in workload in terms of applications for licenses, et cetera. Are you moving any of that staff to solve this resource problem?
I'd like to actually submit something for the record, if that's okay. I've got a little chart here which shows our budget from 2003 to 2013, and I know it's a bit of an eye test for you, but it shows it in actual dollars and constant dollars. And if you look at the constant dollar chart, which is in red, our current budget is the lowest it's been since 2007, I believe. And in that time period, since 2007, our workload has increased significantly. We have been dealing with Yucca Mountain. We have been dealing with waste confidence. We have been dealing with Fukushima. In addition to all the other work that we're doing, the new construction work, all of that work. So we are actually now doing more with less.
Well, there are going to be a lot of folks who disagree with you, and that goes back to my original statement. If you become completely process-oriented, I'm sure you're dealing with more because you've created that process. If you step back, I think you come to the opposite conclusion. And as you know, those resources were given to you to meet an expected increase in license application, an increase in sites, increase in nuclear reactors. None of that has happened. Yes, regulations have multiplied almost exponentially, but that fundamental growth of the industry has not happened. Let me re-ask my question about people, because you will agree that at least since 2000, there's been a huge increase in bodies at the NRC, correct?
Since 2000. We hit our maximum a couple years ago, and we have decreased in size since 2010. And we now have around 3,700 employees.
Okay, well, not that long ago was 2,900, so there's been a big increase over that time period. Are you moving any of those folks to solve the Yucca resource?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
We're currently how many of those folks have been moved recently from something else to Yucca?
Well, I can assure you that we're currently about 80% staffed up for dealing with the safety evaluation reports. So we are going to be ready to go on those very soon.
But again, I was talking about following the whole process through. You've said several times you don't have adequate resources. So I'm talking about that broader challenge. How do you propose to solve that problem?
I think right now that the budget appropriations has been settled, we are in a reasonable position going forward. I would ask my colleagues to weigh in if they would like to.
Senator, if I could just add to the chairman's answer,
Sure.
In terms of reallocating appropriated money to Yucca Mountain-related activities, there are prohibitions on our doing that. We would have to seek a congressional reprogramming because activities used for Yucca Mountain, I believe, must be appropriated from the Nuclear Waste Fund. So our other appropriated monies would have to receive a congressional reprogramming.
Are you all going to make that request?
This will be a commission decision, so it's something we will have to decide as a body.
Or are you considering that, making that request? Has there been any discussion?
We will, there has been some discussion. We will entertain this as it comes up in future budgets.
Yes, sir.
Senator, if I may add to Commissioner Svenke and Chairman McFarland's comments, Glenn Tracy, who directs our Office of New Reactors, he's a New Orleans native, has moved a number of his personnel over the last 2 years because of the drop back in licensing of new reactors over to help with Fukushima action items in the seismic and flooding area. And I think Mark Sartorius, our Executive Director for Operations, who's back here in the back row, has taken a lot of steps to ensure the appropriate, fiscally prudent use of these resources.
Well, I hope you can understand my general concern, which is it took a court order to have the NRC follow a clear legal mandate. And even as that's happening, there are all sorts of statements, well, we don't have the decisions to follow through and get everything done down the line. I realize we're not talking about the immediate work at hand, but the full review and decision. And so why don't we start thinking about how we solve that problem? I don't hear any request for reprogramming, any significant movement of individuals, even though there's been a major increase over a decade, any proposal to OMB. So can you all discuss how we solve that problem over time and present to us and Congress and everyone appropriate your plan for solving that problem, not just identifying the problem or not just pointing to the problem? Thank you. That's all I have.